Namassarvebhyaha Sarvesham Hardam Swagatam. We'll start the class by chanting the Prarthana Slokas. Krishno Rakshadumam Chara Chara Guruhu Krishnan Namasyamyaham Krishne Namara Shatrabo Virikataha Krishnaya Tasmai Namaha Krishna Deva Samutthidam Jagadidam Krishnasya Dasosmyaham Krishne Bhaktira Janjalasto Bhagavan He Krishna Tubhyan Namaha Prapanna Parijataya Totra Vetraika Panaye Jnana Mudraya Krishnaya Gitamrita Duhe Namaha Vasudeva Sutan Devam Kamsa Chanura Mardanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnau Vande Jagadgurum Sarvesham Punaswagatam. So we'll continue with this 22nd sloka. Upadrashtanumantacha bharta bhokta maheshwaraha paramatmeti chapyuktaha dehesmin purushah paraha. So here upadrashta, there is a dvitvam here, upadrashtanu mantacha bharta bhokta maheshwaraha paramatmeti chapyuktaha dehesmin purushah paraha. There is a upadmanya here. So here Bhagavan says that he who is witness and the permitter, upadrashta means a witness, and permitter, Anumanta, who is permitter, who is the Bharta, the nourisher, Bhokta, the experiencer, and the master, Maheshwaraha, and who is also spoken of as the Supreme Self, Paramatmeti Chapyuktaha. Dehesmin, the Supreme Purusha in this body, in this Dehesmin, Asmin Dehe Purushaha, Supreme Purusha is the Supreme Purusha. So, Brahman has nothing actually to do with Prakriti. Brahman, that is, we are Brahman, we have nothing to do with Prakriti, but develops a strong identification with the body. We develop a strong identification with the body, and by taking various conditioning or upadhis, such as the body, the mind, the vital forces and intellect and so on, it becomes the permitter, nourisher and experiencer and the master of this body. So it takes over everything by becoming, identifying with the body and controlling all the upadhis. It takes over like that. So there is nothing to be concerned about this, because we are Brahman only. We should always be aware that we are Brahman. Only thing is just taken a body and we are contacting with Prakriti. So there is going to be some sort of a diluting that Brahman's state because of the contact with the Prakriti. So there is no need to worry about this. So we need not go outside to seek Ishvara. We are Ishvara. Ishvara, that Brahman is there in us. So there we need not go outside at all. Brahman is there. He is actually controlling and he is the permitter and he is the nourisher. Actually, he is the nourisher and he is the Supreme Self, resident as the I in all bodies. In all beings, he is residing as the Supreme Purusha. That we should realize. So this is the meaning of Purusha. Purusha is that Brahman only are residing in the body and trying to control this all the upadhis, like the body, the mind, the intellect and all. So what we should attempt is to pay more attention to the Ishvara aspect. Ishvara aspect in this. We pay more attention to the Ishvara aspect and less to upadhis. Especially the ego. Ego we should give less and less importance and give importance to the Ishvara aspect in us. And if you see great souls, they do completely lose their individuality and they become the witness, just a witness of what's happening in this. That is called Upadrashta. Upadrashta means just a witness of what's happening. And they don't go out and, as far as possible, refrain from taking any contact with the Prakriti. So being a witness always and remaining unaffected by the goings on of the Prakriti. What is going on the Prakriti? They are unaffected. So this is what Bhagavan says here. And how Purusha is getting entangled with Prakriti and how we can get out of it by concentrating more on the Ishvara aspect in us. So we'll continue.
Pushpa Bhagini.
Upadrashtanumantacha.
Upadrashtanumantacha. Upadrashtanumantacha.
Bharta bhokta maheshwaraha.
Bharta bhokta maheshwaraha. Bharta bhokta maheshwaraha.
Paramatmeti chapyuktaha.
Paramatmeti chapyuktaha. Paramatmeti chapyuktaha.
Dehesmin purushah paraha.
Dehesmin purushas-paraha. Dehesmin purushas-paraha.
Purushah paraha.
Purushas-paraha.
If is coming purushah, because it is pa is there, upadmaniya. Purushah paraha.
Purusha-paraha.
Uttam.
Purusha-paraha.
Uttam.
Malini Bhagini.
Upadrashtanumantacha.
23. Upadrashtanumantha cha. Upadrashtanumantha cha.
Bharta bhokta maheshwaraha.
Bharta bhokta maheshwaraha. Bharta bhokta maheshwaraha.
Paramatmeti chapyuktaha.
Paramatmeti chapyuktaha. Paramatmeti chapyuktaha.
Dehesmin purushah paraha.
Dehesmin purushah paraha. Dehesmin purushah paraha.
Uttam. Welcome.
Padma Jagan Bhagini.
Upadrashtanumantacha. Bharta bhokta maheshwaraha.
Upadrashtanumantacha. Bharta bhokta maheshwaraha. Upadrashtanumantacha. Bharta bhokta maheshwaraha.
Paramatmeti chapyuktaha. Dehesmin purushah paraha.
Paramatmeti chapyuktaha. Dehesmin purushah paraha. Paramatmeti chapyuktaha. Dehesmin purushah paraha.
Uttam. Welcome.
Vinoda Bhagini.
Upadrashtanumantacha. Bharta bhokta maheshwaraha.
उपदृष्टानुमन्ता च भर्ता भोक्ता महेश्वरः उपदृष्टानुमन्ता च भर्ता भोक्ता महेश्वरः.
Ma'am, here upadrashta, not upadrashtanumantacha.
उपद्रष्टानुमन्ता च उपद्रष्टानुमन्ता च भर्ता भोक्ता महेश्वरः.
Paramatmeti chapyuktaha. Dehesmin purushah paraha.
परमात्मेति चाप्युक्तः देहेऽस्मिन् पुरुषः परः. परमात्मेति चाप्युक्तः देहेऽस्मिन् पुरुषः परः.
Uttam.
धन्यवादः.
Lakshmi HS Bhagini.
Upadrashtanumantacha. Bharta bhokta maheshwaraha. Paramatmeti chapyuktaha. Dehesmin purushah paraha.
उपद्रष्टानुमन्ता च भर्ता भोक्ता महेश्वरः परमात्मेति चाप्युक्तः देहेऽस्मिन् पुरुषः परः.
Here upadrashta, there is a ditvam here. Upadrashtanumanta cha.
उपद्रष्टानुमन्ता च.
Uttam.
Raghunath Mahodaya.
उपद्रष्टानुमन्ता च भर्त्रा भोक्ता महेश्वरः परमात्मेति चाप्युक्तः देहेऽस्मिन् पुरुषः परः.
Uttam. We'll check for the next sloka. Yaye vete purusham prakritim cha gunai saha sarvatha vartamanopi nasabhuyo bhijayate. So here, evam veti, there is a anuswara followed by vakara, evam veti. Instead of evam veti, purusham prakritincha, gunai saha. Nisarga followed by sakara, gunai saha. Sarvatha vartamana sabhuyo bhijayate. So here, Bhagavan says, he who knows, who understands, who realizes that Purusha, what is Prakriti, and what are gunas. So we know now what is Purusha, what is Prakriti, and what is guna. So along with gunas, he knows Purusha and Prakriti along with gunas. So no matter what his conduct is, he will never born again. Nasabho yobhijayate. He will never be born again. So we have to clearly know what is Purusha, what is Prakriti, along with the gunas. If you know clearly, whatever may be your conduct, you will be, you will not have any more birth in this world. This is what Bhagavan says here. So here we come with usually with three types of karmas. So which are unfulfilled desires, is karmas or vasanas, unfulfilled desires from our previous births. That becomes seeds for future actions. So total karmas is called sanchita karma, and the entire stock of our karmas. So present karma in this birth, we go prarabdha karma, in the activity in the present life, and the expected karmas, agami karmas, generated due to the results of actions in the present life. So all these are together, they become sanchita karmas. They become the sanchita karmas. So Vedas say that as long as an individual maintains a stock of karmas, he has to take on a body again and again to exhaust those karmas. He has to complete those karmas. So by generating further selfish desires, he adds to stock of karmas, and cycle of births goes on indefinitely, goes on adding karmas, and your cycle of birth goes on indefinitely. So Bhagavan says, one who has understood the relationship between Purusha and Prakriti, one who has understood the identification of Brahman with Prakriti due to ignorance. So our identification with Prakriti is due to ignorance and consequent rushing after gunas. So we identify with Prakriti and we rush after the gunas. He will be never born again if he understands this. That is original. This thing is Brahman stage, and he has understood what is Prakriti, and along with gunas, but he has understood, because by ignorance he has identified with the Prakriti. He understands that he will never be born again. His stock of karmas is destroyed. No further desires, no longer fascinated by the play of the gunas. So he realizes selfish desires is created by ignorance of one's true nature. So selfishness is wiped out completely, and he has no urge to get into contact with Prakriti. So his present life karmas continue to be active until he drops off, and after which there will be no future births. So individual can continue to perform his duties even after he has realized his true nature. So you may remember Janaka, King Janaka. King Janaka was Sita Devi's father. He had completed all his karmas, and he was king. He was the king. He carried on his duties as a king, though he has basically realized his soul. He had already got realization, but still continued to live as the king of the country, and he ruled so very well. So that's an example of people, of persons who have realized Brahman, but still continue to live in this world, making no further selfish desires and no further contacts with the Prakriti. So they have, so they will never be born again. This is what Bhagavan says here. It will continue.
Vatsala Bhagini.
Yaye vavveti purusham.
Yaye vavveti purusham. Yaye vavveti purusham.
Veti, there is double ta is there. Yaye vavveti purusham.
Yaye vavveti purusham. Yaye vavveti purusham.
Not ye, yayeva. Yaye vavveti purusham.
Yaye vavveti purusham.
Prakritincha gunai saha.
Prakurtincha gunai saha. Prakurtincha gunai saha.
Sarvatha vartamanopi.
Sarvatha vartamanopi. Sarvatha vartamanopi.
Nasa bhuyo bhijayate.
Nasa bhuyo bhijayate. Nasa bhuyo bhijayate.
Uttam.
Devi Chitra Bhagini.
Yaye vavveti purusham.
Yaye vavveti purusham. Yaye vavveti purusham.
Prakritincha gunai saha.
Prahridincha gunai saha. Prahridincha gunai saha.
Sarvatha vartamanopi.
Sarvatha vartamanopi. Sarvatha vartamanopi.
Nasa bhuyo bhijayate.
Nasa bhuyo bhijayate. Nasa bhuyo bhijayate.
Uttam.
Padma Vishwanathan Bhagini.
Yaye vavveti purusham. Prakritincha gunai saha.
Yaye vavveti purusham prakritincha gunai saha. Yaye vavveti purusham prakritincha gunai saha.
Sarvatha vartamanopi. Nasa bhuyo bhijayate.
Sarvatha vartamanopi nasa bhuyo bhijayate. Sarvatha vartamanopi nasa bhuyo bhijayate.
Uttam. Well chanted.
Ilavarasi Bhagini.
Yaye vavveti purusham. Prakritincha gunai saha.
Yaye vavveti purusham prakritincha gunai saha. Yaye vavveti purusham prakritincha gunai saha.
Sarvatha vartamanopi. Nasa bhuyo bhijayate.
Sarvatha vartamanopi nasa bhuyo bhijayate. Sarvatha vartamanopi nasa bhuyo bhijayate.
Uttam.
Thank you so much.
Molak Mahodaya.
Yaye vavveti purusham. Prakritincha gunai saha. Sarvatha vartamanopi. Nasa bhuyo bhijayate.
Yaeva veti purusham. Yaeva veti purusham. Prakritin cha gunai saha. Sarvatha vartamanopi. Nasabhuyo bhijayate.
Uttam.
धन्यवाद सर.
Lakshmi Kiran Bhagini.
Yaye vavveti purusham prakritincha gunai saha. Sarvatha vartamanopi nasa bhuyo bhijayate.
Uttam. Go to the next
Sapna
one.
Baldua Bhagini.
Okay, once. Okay.
Yae vavveti purusham prakritincha gunai saha. सर्वथा वर्तमानोऽपि न स भूयोऽभिजायते।
उत्तम. ध्यानेनात्मनि पश्यन्ति केचिदात्मानमात्मना अन्ये सांख्येन योगेन अन्ये सांख्येन योगेन कर्मयोगेन चापरे. So here Bhagavan says, some dhyanenatmani pashyanti. Some behold the self, that is the Paramatman. Some behold the self in the self, that is in the Jivatman. We call the Brahman that is in each and every body is the Jivatman, and the entire universal is Parabrahman, this is the Paramatman. So we behold the self in the self by the self. By our own this thing, we are able to see that Paramatman in us, in ourselves, through meditation. Dhyanenatmani pashyanti. Through meditation, others kechit atmana matmana anye sankhena yogena. Others through sankhya and yoga. Sankhya and yoga. Sankhya means knowledge or viveka or discrimination. So anye sankhena yogena, and some others karma yogena. Karma yogena chapare. There is still some others, they realize self, that is the Paramatman, through karma yoga. So dhyana yoga, sankhya yoga, karma yoga, all these, through these methods, through these processes, they are able to realize Brahman. So, so far we have studied two unrelated topics in our study of Gita. One is that we have studied techniques such as the Sankhya Yoga. We studied in second chapter, Sankhya Yoga, the yoga of knowledge, of discrimination. We have discriminated between what is perishable, what is imperishable, and all we have seen in detail in second chapter. And we have seen Karma Yoga. Karma Yoga in third chapter, I think we have seen Karma Yoga. And then we have seen Dhyana Yoga. Dhyana Yoga we have seen in, I think, Atma Sayyama Yoga. Sixth chapter we have seen Dhyana Yoga, Atma Sayyama Yoga or Dhyana Yoga. And then we have seen Bhakti Yoga. Bhakti Yoga we have seen in the 12th chapter, we have seen Bhakti Yoga. So are several techniques to access Ishvara. All these are techniques to access Ishvara. And on the other hand, we have also studied the way in which our downfall happens, how we are prevented from seeing this by leads to our downfall, that is downfall of the Purusha, that is the Brahman in us, through ignorance. First of all, we are ignorant of the Brahman in us, the Purusha in us. We are ignorant of that. And then of our true nature is that, and subsequent attachment to the gunas, to the Sattva, Rajas, and Tamo gunas, attachment to those. First of all, we don't recognize that we are Brahman, our Brahman nature, and then also we get attached to the gunas. So here, Bhagavan wants to connect these unrelated topics. So how does it do? Before we remove ignorance of our true nature, we need to deal with the three gunas of Prakriti. Need to deal with our selfish desires. So we need to deal with our selfish desires. This is something which we can actually put into practice to remove our selfish desires. It depends on the capability of the seeker. So most advanced seeker has mastered the techniques of Dhyana Yoga. He can do meditation. We have talked about meditation, how to do meditation. So we should sit in a firm place and all that. We have discussed that thing in one chapter, we have done it. So do Dhyana Yoga. So they can directly access Brahman because they are capable. They can do Dhyana that is perfect Dhyana, and through that they'll be able to access Brahman. in the self, through the self, they will be able to access Brahman. So that is through the intellect. That is chapter 6 is already talked about it. And for those with no mastery over education, Sankhya Yoga, the yoga of discrimination, we talked in the second chapter, and is recommended, second chapter. Seeker, here also seeker has command over the intellect because he is able to distinguish between Prakriti and Purusha and Prakriti. So he has got the command over the intellect. So constantly separate B from the three gunas, Brahman from three gunas. Constantly separate the Brahman from, because he is intellect using and he is separating the gunas from the Brahman. He is not permanent, this is impermanent, like that he can segregate those things. So his Purusha, the Purusha from the Prakriti, he can segregate Purusha, what is Prakriti and what is Purusha, he can segregate. And through Viveka or discrimination. Some interpret Sankhya and Yoga to include Ashtanga Yoga, the word of Ashtanga Yoga. So technique of accessing Ishvara through yogic exercises and breathing. So these also some people are doing to access Brahman. For those who cannot practice Dhyana Yoga, Sankhya Yoga and Ashtanga Yoga, those who are incapable of those things, then Karma Yoga, that is recommended. That the yoga of selfless action. This everybody can do, selfless action, which is in the third chapter where she mentioned about that. So action as a dedication to Ishvara. Whatever you do as dedication to Ishvara, always keeping Ishvara in mind, do your duties, and the mind is purged of all selfishness. Your selfishness will be removed from your mind. Such a pure mind is ready to receive the supreme knowledge. Supreme knowledge is ready to receive. So here we have combined the, because we have identified gunas, getting rid of these gunas, the selfish desires. That is what we have to attempt to make our mind pure so that the supreme knowledge, we can attain supreme knowledge. Of course, here lesson mentioned about the our ignorance of Brahman, but that is it will automatically happen. It will happen if one removes the attachment to the gunas, and he constantly realizes what is Prakriti and what is Purusha, what is permanent and what is impermanent. He is able to distinguish. So with this, and finally Karma Yoga is very easy. Selfless action, he'll be able to realize. He'll be purged of all his impurities, all desires, and he'll be able to realize. This is what Bhagavan says here. We will continue.
Malini Bhagini.
Dhyanenatmani pashyanti.
Dhyanenatmani pashyanti. Dhyanenatmani pashyanti.
Kechidatmanamatmana.
Kechidatmanamatmana. Kechidatmanamatmana.
Anye sankhena yogena.
Anye sankhena yogena. Anye sankhena yogena.
Karma yogena chapare.
Karma yogena chapare. Karma yogena chapare.
Uttam.
Thank you.
Supriya Bhagini.
Dhyanenatmani pashyanti.
Supriya Bhagini.
ध्यानेनात्मनि पश्यन्ति ध्यानेनात्मनि पश्यन्ति
Kechidatmanamatmana.
केचिदात्मानमात्मना केचिदात्मानमात्मना
Anye Sankhena Yogena.
अन्ये सांख्येन योगेन अन्ये सांख्येन योगेन
Karma Yogena Chapare.
कर्मयोगेन चापरे कर्मयोगेन चापरे
Uttam.
धन्यवाद
नागमणि भगिनी
ध्यानेनात्मनि पश्यन्ति केचिदात्मानमात्मना
ध्यानेनात्मनि पश्यन्ति केचिदात्मानमात्मना ध्यानेनात्मनि पश्यन्ति केचिदात्मानमात्मना
अन्ये सांख्येन योगेन कर्मयोगेन चापरे
अन्ये सांख्येन योगेन कर्मयोगेन चापरे अन्ये सांख्येन योगेन कर्मयोगेन चापरे
उत्तम
विनोदा भगिनी
ध्यानेनात्मनि पश्यन्ति केचिदात्मानमात्मना
ज्ञानेनात्मनि पश्यन्ति केचिदात्मानमात्मना ध्यानेनात्मनि पश्यन्ति केचिदात्मानमात्मना
अन्ये सांख्येन योगेन कर्मयोगेन चापरे
अन्ये सांख्येन योगेन कर्मयोगेन चापरे अन्ये सांख्येन योगेन कर्मयोगेन चापरे
उत्तम
धन्यवाद
मीनाक्षी राममूर्ति भगिनी
ध्यानेनात्मनि पश्यन्ति केचिदात्मानमात्मना अन्ये सांख्येन योगेन कर्मयोगेन चापरे
ध्यानेनात्मनि पश्यन्ति केचिदात्मानमात्मना अन्ये सांख्येन योगेन कर्मयोगेन चापरे
उत्तम
हेमा भगिनी
ध्यानेनात्मनि पश्यन्ति केचिदात्मानमात्मना अन्ये सांख्येन योगेन कर्मयोगेन चापरे
उत्तम
अनसूया भगिनी
ध्यानेनात्मनि पश्यन्ति केचिदात्मानमात्मना अन्ये सांख्येन योगेन कर्मयोगेन चापरे
उत्तम गच्छामि धन्यवादः
धन्यवादः
अन्ये त्वेवमजानन्तः श्रुत्वान्येभ्य उपासते तेऽपि चातितरन्त्येव मृत्युं श्रुतिपरायणाः. So here, अन्ये त्वेवमजानन्तः. So here, but others, अन्ये, some others, not knowing the worship, this worship, that dhyana yoga or karma yoga or sankhya yoga, they don't know. Tevam ajanantaha, they don't know. Srutvanebhya upasate. So they, whatever they hear from others, they worship. What others say, worship like this, they worship. So whatever others say, they will listen to that and they will worship. So those who follow what they have heard, Tepi chati taranteva mrityum shruti parayanat. Those who have heard and understood and they follow those words, they too overcome death. They too overcome death means they don't have any further birth in this world. This is what Bhagavan says here. We learn new things from two sources. One, advice from an expert who has experience and who has good experience. We go to him and learn from him, and we get to know about that. Or we read a book by an expert, how to be done, all those things we read from a book. So we study and become experts ourselves. We are interested, we continue to study, we become experts only with faith in the teacher. And also contact with knowers who are practicing, that's called satsanga. So through that we can overcome death. So we have often talked about this erroneous identification that we are not Brahman, we are just Prakriti. We identify with Prakriti, and we forget our Brahman nature. So that is a classic example of this is the hot iron ball. Suppose there is a hot iron ball. The iron ball is heated. So it has got a round shape, iron ball. It has got a round shape. So the iron ball has taken on heat. It has taken on heat, a property of fire. A property of fire is heat. So it has taken on the fire. On the other hand, fire has no shape. Fire has no shape, but it has taken the property of the iron ball. Round nature. It has taken the property of that. So the two things taking on each other's properties is known as Anyonya Adhyasa. Anyonya Adhyasa. So mutual superimposition. They have taken the properties of each other. Similarly, Purusha's real nature is infinite, full of knowledge and bliss. Prakriti's nature is finite, inert, and sorrowful. So this erroneous identification results in exchange of properties, just like the iron ball and the heat, as it were. And this is how Purusha assumes inertness of the body. It's actually very infinite bliss, etc. But he takes on the inertness of the Prakriti. So in our daily life, this Purusha that is in us is interacting with several other Purushas. We are coming across so many people, all under this erroneous identification. They are all erroneously identified with Prakriti. Or we are also erroneously identified. They are also erroneously identified. So there should be no hint of arrogance. Suppose we have understood that there is Brahman in us and we are erroneously identified. We get some little knowledge. So we should not treat others differently, because they are also in the same boat. No difference between any two, because all are under this identification. So and we tend to emphasize differences between people, but we slip away from when we do that. When we find out differences, we slip away from liberation. So we should always find out the sameness of attitude. Our position is same. We are all erroneously identified with the body. We are all, in fact, the Brahman, this thing only. So you should not forget that when you come across other people, other devotees. So keeping this in mind, we have to learn to develop the correct attitude towards the world. You have to know that thing clearly, and keeping this, that all are Brahman, representation of Brahman only, and erroneously they are identified with the body, and they have contact with the Prakriti, and they have acquired many gunas of the Prakriti. So they are modified Prakriti. So we should understand this, and accordingly we should interact with the world. This is what Bhagavan says here. So here Bhagavan, what he says is that those who don't have access to Dhyana Yoga, Karma Yoga, and all that, they can listen to what others who are practicing the same rituals or something to for their clearing their all their faults or clearing their papas or something. So we can listen to the rishis or who are talking on this, who have knowledge, and try to follow them. And if they follow those principles correctly, they will also get over this cycle of birth and death, and they will have they will attain Brahman. This is what Bhagavan says. So do not worry if you don't have any of these type of yoga practices. You can still attain Brahmanhood by following the advices of people who have the correct authority on this. We'll continue.
Vatsala Bhagini.
Anye tvevamajanantaha.
Anye tvevamajanantaha. Anye tvevamajanantaha.
Shrutvanebhya upasate.
Shrutvanebhya upasate. Shrutvanebhya upasate.
Shrutvanebhya upasate.
Shrutvanebhya upasate.
Tepi chati tarantyeva.
Tepi chati tarantyeva. Chebitaditarantyeva.
Mrityum shruti parayanaha.
Mrityum shruti parayanaha. Mrityum shruti parayanaha.
Uttam.
Devi Chitra Bhagini.
Anye tvevamajanantaha.
Anye tvevamajanantaha. Anye tvevamajanantaha.
Shrutvanebhya upasate.
Shrudvanyebhya upasate. Shrudvanyebhya upasate.
Tepi chati tarantyeva.
Tepi chati tarantyeva. Tepi chati tarantyeva.
Mrityum shruti parayanaha.
Mrityum shruti parayanaha. Mrityum shruti parayanaha.
Uttam. That's it.
Padma Jagan Bhagini.
Anye tvevamajanantaha. Shrutvanebhya upasate.
अन्याद्येवमजानन्तः श्रुत्वान्येभ्य उपासते अन्येद्वेवमजानन्तः श्रुत्वान्येभ्य उपासते
Tepi chati tarantyeva. Mrityum shruti parayanaha.
तेऽपि चातितरन्त्येव मृत्युं श्रुतिपरायणाः तेऽपि चातितरन्त्येव मृत्युं श्रुतिपरायणाः.
Okay. Tepi. Here we cannot elongate it. Tepi chati tarantyeva.
तेऽपि चातितरन्त्येव मृत्युं श्रुतिपरायणाः.
Okay. We cannot say tepi chati tarantyeva.
Okay.
Tepi chati tarantyeva.
Okay.
Uttam. Dhanyawad.
Pushpa Bhagini.
Anye tvevamajanantaha. Shrutvanebhya upasate.
अन्ये तेवमजानन्तः श्रुत्वान्येभ्य उपासते अन्ये तेवमजानन्तः श्रुत्वान्येभ्य उपासते
Tepi chati tarantyeva. Mrityum shruti parayanaha.
तेऽपि चातिरतन्येव
Atitarantyeva. That is chati tarantyeva.
चातितरन्त्येव मृत्युं श्रुतिपरायणाः तेऽपि चातिरतन्त्येव मृत्युं श्रुतिपरायणाः
चाति तरन्त्येव
चाति तरन्त्येव
हा
मृत्युं श्रुतिपरायणाः
उत्तम
धन्यवादः
पद्मा विश्वनाथन भगिनी
अन्ये त्वेवमजानन्तः श्रुत्वान्येभ्य उपासते तेऽपि चातितरन्त्येव मृत्युं श्रुतिपरायणाः
अन्ये त्वेवमजानन्तः श्रुत्वान्येभ्य उपासते तेऽपि चातितरन्त्येव मृत्युं श्रुतिपरायणाः
उत्तम
गोलप महोदय
अन्ये त्वेवमजानन्तः श्रुत्वान्येभ्य उपासते तेऽपि चातितरन्त्येव मृत्युं श्रुतिपरायणाः
उत्तम
धन्यवाद
रघुनाथ महोदय
अन्ये त्वेवमजानन्तः श्रुत्वान्येभ्य उपासते तेऽपि चातितरन्त्येव मृत्युं श्रुतिपरायणाः
उत्तम we will chant the 4 slokas today we did
लक्ष्मी HS भगिनी
उपद्रष्टानुमन्ता च भर्ता भोक्ता महेश्वरः परमात्मेति चाप्युक्तः देहेऽस्मिन् पुरुषः परः
उत्तम well chanted
सपना भगिनी
य एवं वेत्ति पुरुषं प्रकृतिं च गुणैः सह सर्वथा वर्तमानोऽपि न स भूयोऽभिजायते
उत्तम
अनसूया भगिनी
ध्यानेनात्मनि पश्यन्ति केचिदात्मानमात्मना अन्ये साङ्ख्येन योगेन कर्मयोगेन चापरे
उत्तम
मीनाक्षी भगिनी
अन्ये त्वेवमजानन्तः श्रुत्वान्येभ्य उपासते तेऽपि चातितरन्त्येव मृत्युं श्रुतिपरायणाः
उत्तम
हेमा भगिनी
उपद्रष्टानुमन्ता च भर्ता भोक्ता महेश्वरः परमात्मेति चाप्युक्तः देहेऽस्मिन् पुरुषः परः
उत्तम
इलवरसी भगिनी
य एवं वेत्ति पुरुषं प्रकृतिं च गुणैः सह सर्वथा वर्तमानोऽपि न स भूयोऽभिजायते
नागमणि भगिनी
ध्यायेनात्मनि पश्यन्ति केचिदात्मानमात्मना अन्ये साङ्ख्येन योगेन कर्मयोगेन चापरे
ध्यानेनात्मनि
ध्यानेनात्मनि पश्यन्ति
उत्तम
ध्यानेनात्मनि पश्यन्ति
उत्तम उत्तम I heard as ध्यायेनात्मनि that's
धन्यवादः
लक्ष्मी किरण भगिनी
क्षम्यतां
no problem no
अन्ये त्वेवमजानन्तः श्रुत्वान्येभ्य उपासते तेऽपि चातितरन्त्येव मृत्युं श्रुतिपरायणाः
उत्तम.
धन्यवादः.
I'll chant once. उपद्रष्टानुमन्ता च भर्ता भोक्ता महेश्वरः परमात्मेति चाप्युक्तः देहेऽस्मिन् पुरुषः परः य एवं वेत्ति पुरुषं प्रकृतिं च गुणैः सह सर्वथा वर्तमानोऽपि न स भूयोऽभिजायते ध्यानेनात्मनि पश्यन्ति केचिदात्मानमात्मना अन्ये सांख्येन योगेन कर्मयोगेन चापरे अन्ये त्वेवमजानन्तः श्रुत्वान्येभ्य उपासते तेऽपि चातितरन्त्येव मृत्युं श्रुतिपरायणाः. समापयामः. We'll conclude with the Shanti mantra. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. धन्यवादः. पुनः मिलामः. राम राम राम.
धन्यवादः. शुभदिनं.
धन्यवादः महोदय.
धन्यवादः.